Hello, Culturist and History of Education Society community. Welcome to my 50th video on Culturism. To celebrate this milestone, I want to pay attention to another very important milestone, the 50th anniversary of the History of Education Society. Congratulations to you. Unfortunately, I will not be able to be at the 50th anniversary celebration. However, I want to use this video to say congratulations again, tell you what I've been up to, and tell you that I hope to be back in 2011 at the conference and within the History of Education community. You remember me. I'm John Press. I'm John Zimmerman's student. I was also the assistant coordinator of the 2007 and 2009 History of Education Society conferences. Since then, I have been very busy. I have published the second edition of my book, Culturism, A Word, A Value, Our Future. I have become the president of the Brooklyn Tea Party. I've sent to the printers my second book, Prison Wars, an inside view of how the apocalypse happened, and I've been editing my third book, Capsule, A Search for Identity in Modern Japan. The second edition of Culturism is a little different than the one. It's updated from the one that I sold at the 2009 HES conference. Culturism, as you remember, is the opposite of multiculturalism. Whereas multiculturalism doesn't really take diversity seriously, it says celebrate everything, and it calls you a racist if you dare to say that diversity might have some negative implications. Culturism takes cultural diversity very seriously, and as such, it says that we ought to emphasize our unity, not our small differences, our unity as Americans. It can also be used to free up American discourse. For example, recently Juan Williams was fired from NPR for saying that Muslims might have a slight propensity towards terrorism. He might be concerned about that. This was not a racist statement. This was a culturist statement. He was making a statistically true statement. However, if we're not allowed to talk about this because we call all cultural diversity racist, it shuts down public discourse. We need to open up public discourse by using the words culturism and culturist. The book Culturism is not really academic. It's not peer-reviewed, but it does have a lot of, it talks about a lot of academic discourses. For example, there's a chapter on culturism and anthropology. There's one on culturism and world history. There's one on culturism and psychology, culturism and philosophy. There's even one on culturism and the natural sciences. But most importantly to the HES community, there's a chapter on culturism and U.S. history. Rather than being racist or about diversity, this chapter shows that our history can be interpreted as a culturist history. To make this point, I look at the Puritans, very culturist. I look at the effect of culturist thought on manifest destiny. I look at the Prohibition movement, again a culturist movement. And most importantly, the HES community, I look at the history of education as a culturist movement. In doing so, I also look at the person on whom I got my academic doctorate on, Frances Keller. She ran the Americanization movement. Again, a lot of people have said in the literature that this is a coercive movement bent on conformity. I put her in the context of the other progressive intellectuals surrounding her, Walter Lippmann and John Dewey, etc., and I say that she actually used progressive activism as a way to Americanize immigrants. On that note, I have been the president of the Brooklyn Tea Party. In doing such, I have modeled myself on Frances Keller, and I've created a nice political community. We've had rallies, candidates, forums, lots of mini parades, and again, it's been very good for public spirit, networking, social capital. In doing this, I've also tried to be a bit of a public intellectual by arguing that the Tea Party movement should be culturist like the culturist Brooklyn Tea Party. In doing this, I have been featured in the New York Daily News. I have been on Fox Business News. I've been in lots of media. So again, this has been public intellectual work, though not strictly, again, academic, not peer-reviewed. I've also been busy because I, again, have sent to the printers Prison Wars. This book is a fiction book, and it's a fictionalized version of culturism, and it also talks about gender issues. Again, Frances Keller was an invert. She wrote about gender issues. She wrote about basketball and gender issues. This book looks at what happens when gender issues go awry. There's even a character called Linda Keller, and the main character is named after Margaret Sanger. So again, not academic, but fun and addressing academic issues. After the November 2nd elections, after publishing Prison Wars fully, after finishing editing Capsule, A Search for Identity in Modern Japan, I will hopefully rejoin you. In the meantime, I invite you to look at my Culturism videos. This is my 50th, but there are a lot of good ones. If you go to my website, I especially invite you to look at my Culturism in Education video. Very important, I think. So, again, I've been very busy. Unfortunately, I will not be at the celebration of the History of Education Society's 50th anniversary. Amazing. But again, I want to use this 50th video of mine to say congratulations. I hope to be back in the academic world doing articles and peer-reviewed stuff and at the conference in 2011. In the meantime, enjoy Boston. Celebrate your 50th anniversary. You're doing tremendous work. It's very important. I'm very proud. Hooray, HES community.